Hi everyone, welcome to this session on signals and systems. So in this class we are going to discuss the very important concepts in the signals and systems subject, which is the concept of this sampling theorem. So this is a very important concept, the concept of the sampling theorem. So I define this sampling theorem at the end of this session because we have the conclusion at the end only. So I'll define this sampling theorem at the end of the session only. So to start with this sampling theorem, so one should know the why we have to go for this sampling theorem. So for that you just know the classifications of the signals. Already you know the classifications of the signal. What is the basic classification of the signal? So signals are classified into three types. So one is the continuous time signals, which is your CTS. Another one is the discrete time system signals, which is the DTS. So the third type of signal classification is digital signals. So nowadays everything is digitalized. So the digital system we consider will process only digital signals only. So how can you get these digital signals? So to get the digital signals, so one must convert your discrete time signals into the digital signals with the help of the quantization. So this is the quantization. So quantization is a process of converting your discrete time signals into the digital signals. Now how can you get the discrete time signals? So to get the discrete time signals, so one should reduction of your continuous time signals. So with the help of the process which is called the sampling. So sampling is a process of reduction of your continuous time signal into the discrete time signals. So with the help of sampling we are going to convert the continuous time signals. So this continuous time signal is the real signal, so which is continuous in time. So we convert or we reduce this continuous time signals into the discrete time signals. So that process what we call as the sampling process. And after getting the discrete time signal, so one should use the process of the quantization of the discrete time signal so that we will get the digital signals. So a digital system will process always the digital signal only. So to get this digital signal we use the process of the quantization, so and we use the process of the sampling. So that is the motto behind a study of this sampling. So because we need a digital signal to work out on the digital systems. We need a digital signal. A digital signal can be obtained only from the discrete time signal, and the discrete time signal is only obtained from the continuous time signal with the help of the sampling process. So sampling is nothing but so the process of reduction of a continuous time signal, so which is the real time signal, to a discrete time signal. So this is nothing but your sampling. So I will define the sampling theorem at the end of this session. So after getting the conclusion only we can realize this definition of sampling theorem. So therefore I define the sampling theorem only at the end of the session. So before that you should know the sampling is nothing but the process of reduction of a continuous time signal, so which is the real time signal which is continuous in time, to the discrete time signal. All of you already know what is a discrete time signal. So a discrete time signal is only defined at discrete instants of time. So this is the signal only defined at the integer values. Other than the integer values, the signal value is 0. So that is your discrete time signal. Now to explain this sampling theorem, I just consider a continuous time signal. So like this. So you just consider the continuous time signal. Let us consider, because sampling is nothing but the process of reduction of a continuous time signal to a discrete time signal. Therefore let us consider a continuous time signal. Which is your x of t. So which is your x of t, which is your a continuous time signal, or you can take this as I of t. So because it is an information signal, so this signal contains an information that we are going to process. Therefore I can name it as the information signal, or you can name it as the message signal, like that. So I just consider the continuous time signal. So this is my continuous time signal. So this is my continuous time signal, all of you clearly observe. So this is my continuous time signal. So it is defined at each and every instant of the time, so in between minus infinity to plus infinity range. So this signal I can name it as the I of t. So here I of t is the information signal. So why it is called the information signal? It contains the information so we want to process. So this I of t, so let us consider this I of t in this fashion. So like that I can consider the I of t. You can consider any type of signal. So this is your continuous time signal. So this contains the information. So the information so we want to process. So it contains the information so we want to process. So that's why it is called the information signal, or we can call it as the message signal. So it contains the information that we are going to process. So let us consider the continuous time signal like this. Now I can name this continuous time signal as, so you just note down here. Let us take a note here. So whatever the signal I consider here, the continuous time signal or the information signal, so is nothing but a band limited signal. So the signal I considered above is a band limited signal. So I will tell you the why we consider the band limited signal. So what is a band limited signal? So a little later, but on the signal we considered here is a band limited signal. Now if you take the frequency spectrum of this signal, if you take this frequency spectrum of this signal, of the information signal, so we considered, now this frequency spectrum is like this. So you just take the frequency spectrum of the information signal we considered is like this. So this is the frequency spectrum. So you can take this as the frequency spectrum. So a frequency spectrum of the information signal can be obtained by taking the Fourier transform of I of t. So if you take the Fourier transform of the information signal, so one should get the signal in the frequency domain. So based on this I of omega, so we are going to plot the I of omega, so with respect to the omega. So that is the frequency spectrum of the corresponding the information signal I of t. Now we observe the frequency spectrum. So let us imagine this is the frequency spectrum for this the given I of t. So I just imagine the frequency spectrum is like this for the example. So this frequency spectrum is defined like this, from minus omega to plus omega. So this is your frequency range for which the spectrum is defined, and the frequency range is 2 omega. So this omega is called the maximum frequency component. So maximum frequency component of the information signal we considered, which is your I of t. Let us clearly observe. First I consider an information signal, a continuous time signal, which is represented by I of t. So this signal contains an information that we are going to process. So this is the signal I considered, because sampling is nothing but the process of reduction of your continuous time signal to the discrete time signal. Therefore I just consider the continuous time signal in this fashion, and the continuous time signal considered here is a band limited signal. So I will tell you the band limited signal. What is a band limited signal? The signal whose frequency is whose spectrum is defined for limited frequency range. Now if we observe the spectrum of this information signal, the spectrum is defined only for the limited frequency range. That is, it is only defined from minus omega to plus omega. So when the frequency is greater than omega m, so its value is 0. So when the frequency is less than minus omega m, so its value is 0. That means the spectrum of the information signal you considered, so is defined only for the limited range of the frequency, the limited range of the frequency. That is, it is only defined from minus omega m to plus omega m. So for other frequencies, that is omega is greater than omega m, omega is less than minus omega m, its value is 0. Its value is 0. That is your band limited signal. So a band limited signal is 1. So whose spectrum is defined? Spectrum is nothing but range of frequencies. Whose spectrum is defined for limited range of frequencies. That is your band limited signal. I consider a band limited signal, meaning is the spectrum of the signal we considered is defined only for the limited range of the frequencies. So that is, it is defined, the spectrum is defined in between minus omega m to plus omega m. For other frequencies, so its value is 0. That is the band limited signal whose spectrum is defined only for the limited range of the frequencies. Here you just remember, here it is omega m. So here omega m is the maximum frequency component. This omega m is the maximum frequency component of the information signal. Here the signal, continuous time signal, consists of multiple frequencies because it is a continuous time signal. That too, it is an aperiodic signal. So it contains the multiple frequencies. So out of the multiple frequencies, so the maximum frequency we are going to select to define the spectrum of this continuous time signal. I just consider the maximum frequency component of this informational signal, because this informational signal contains the multiple frequencies. So out of all those frequencies, you just consider the maximum frequency component. Suppose if the continuous time signal is consists of the frequencies like this, 1 2 3 4, so like that it consists of the frequencies. So among all those frequencies, you select the maximum frequency component. Suppose it is ending at 10. So you select the 10 is the maximum frequency component. So that is the meaning of this omega m. So omega m is the maximum frequency component of the informational signal. That is I of t. There is a significance of this term omega m. So I explained this omega m so a little later, but up to now you should remember here omega m is the maximum frequency component of the informational signal, because your informational signal contains the multiple frequencies. So out of the multiple frequencies, you select the maximum frequency component of the informational signal. So and plot the spectrum of your informational signal. So the spectrum is only defined in between minus omega m to plus omega m, limited range of the frequencies. So that is your band limited signal. So for I considered a signal, a continuous time signal, which is of the band limited signal, and I just draw the spectrum of the informational signal I considered, and from the spectrum I defined one frequency, which is the omega m, which is the maximum frequency component of the message signal. So far I just considered the continuous time signal and its spectrum. So after that so what I am going to do is, so you just take a sampler circuit here. So after considering the continuous time signal I of t and its spectrum, so you just consider a sampler circuit here. So a sampler circuit like this. So you just consider a sampler circuit here. So this is your sampler circuit. So a sampler circuit. So this is your sampler circuit. So a sampler circuit. For this sampler circuit, you just feed two inputs. So among the two inputs, one is the informational signal. So this is your informational signal. So you just feed two inputs to this sampler circuit. This sampler circuit we consider here will act as the multiplier. So multiplier. So this is your multiplier. So this will act as the multiplier. So that means it will multiply the signals which we are going to feed to this sampler circuit. So I consider the signal like this. So this is the informational signal I considered. So this is your I of t. So this is your continuous time signal. So I just feed this continuous time signal I of t and another signal, so which is the periodic impulse train. So this is very important. So this is your periodic impulse train. So this is represented by small p of t. So because it is a periodic impulse train, so it is defined at the discrete instance of time like this. So weight is 1, area under the impulse is 1 here. So this impulse is defined at t equal to 0. After that it is defined at t equal to ts with the same weight. So after that it is defined at t equal to 2 ts. So after that, so this is a periodic impulse train. So it is defined at regular intervals of time. So like that the pattern is going on, so up to infinity. So up to on the positive real axis side. So on the negative real axis side also, because it is a periodic impulse train. So this p of t is a periodic impulse train. So it is defined at regular intervals of time in between minus infinity to plus infinity. So this is minus 2s. So after this it is defined at minus 3 ts. So this is your minus 3 ts and it is going on, so up to the minus infinity. So I consider a periodic impulse train. So this is your periodic impulse train. So this is your periodic impulse train. So why it is periodic impulse train? So because this signal is repeating itself at regular intervals of time. So one such repetition is called what? The fundamental time period. So what is the fundamental time period of this periodic impulse train? So ts is nothing but the fundamental time period, or it is the sampling time. So what we call it as the sampling time, the fundamental time period. So which is ts, because after ts the same signal is going to repeat from minus infinity to plus infinity range. Therefore this is a periodic signal. It contains the impulses at regular intervals of time. Therefore it is a periodic impulse train. So one such repetition is called always the fundamental time period, or what we call as the sampling time. Now what is omega s? So omega s is nothing but 2 pi by ts, is nothing but the sampling frequency. So here omega s is the sampling frequency. So this omega s is the sampling frequency, which is 2 pi by ts. Ts is the fundamental time period. So I just consider the sampler circuit after defining the I of t and I of omega. So the next step is we are going to consider a sampler circuit. A sampler circuit here will act as the multiplier. So a multiplier, what is the purpose of the multiplier? So a multiplier multiply the signals which are given as an input to this sampler circuit. So it is going to multiply your I of t, that is the informational signal, and your periodic impulse train So this is at time t equal to 0. Now how can you represent in terms of the mathematical expression this periodic impulse train? So this periodic impulse train is represented so in this fashion, this periodic impulse train, so it is going to represent in this fashion. So this is the mathematical representation of this periodic impulse train. Here we are going to represent sigma minus infinity to plus infinity, because it is defined in between minus infinity to plus infinity. So and it is a train of impulses. So an impulse is represented by delta. So delta of t minus nts. So if I consider n equal to 0, so I can get the impulse which is defined at t equal to 0. So if n equal to 1, the same impulse is shifted towards the right hand side by 1 unit. That means I can get this signal at ts, which is defined at ts. So if n equal to 2, the same signal is going to shifted right hand side by 2 units, that is 2 ts, right hand side by 2 ts, and the signal is defined only at 2 ts and its weight is 1. Always its weight is 1. So this is the weight of 1. This is impulse with weight of 1. And if I consider n equal to minus 1, so if I consider n equal to minus 1, it means the impulse is shifted to the left hand side by ts units, therefore it is defined at minus ts. So like that, when n equal to minus 2, this impulse is shifted left hand side by 2 units. Therefore it is defined at t equal to minus 2 ts. So when n equal to minus 3, it is only defined at minus 3 ts. Its weight is 1 at minus 3 ts. So like that I consider the periodic impulse train, and I define this periodic impulse train with the help of the mathematical expression. This is your mathematical expression of representing the periodic impulse train. Now you just feed these two inputs to the sampler circuit. Now observe the output. So the output we are going to get is nothing but your sampled signal. We will get the output like this. Now when you multiply the impulse train with the informational signal, so you will get the signal like this. So you just observe the signal like this. So your signal value we are going to get where your impulse is defined, where is your impulse is defined. So this is your sampled signal. So let it be denoted by S of t. So S of t. So S of t here is nothing but the informational signal, so multiplied by the periodic impulse train, which is your P of t. So that is your sampled signal. This is called the sampled signal. A sampled signal is obtained by multiplying the periodic impulse train with the informational signal, sampled signal here. So this is called the sampled signal. Now how can I get the sampled signal? The graphical representation. So if I take at t equal to 0, so what is the weight here? The weight of the impulse is 1. So when we are going to multiply 1, so with this continuous time signal, we will get the value of this continuous time signal, so which is defined at t equal to 0. So like that I can get the value is this one. So this is my value which is defined at t equal to 0, at t equal to 0. So this is t equal to 0. I just multiply this signal with this signal because the sampler circuit will be considered as the multiplier circuit here. Therefore it will multiply these two signals. So after multiplying these two signals, I can get the signal like this. Now in between, if you observe in between 0 to ts, there is no signal, there is no periodic impulse train. Therefore from 0 to ts, so when you multiply any signal with this signal, you should get 0 value. You should get 0 value, even though the continuous time signal is defined. So in between 0 to ts, so in between 0 to ts, there is a value for this continuous time signal. But when you multiply this continuous time signal with this impulse train, here this impulse train in between 0 to ts is of 0 value. So when you multiply anything with 0, you will get to 0 only. Therefore, so you should get the sampled value only at ts, because at t equal to ts, your impulse train weight is 1. So your impulse train weight is 1. So when you multiply this one with the value of your continuous time signal, so you should get the same value of the continuous time signal, which is defined at t equal to ts. So like that I can get the sample at t equal to ts. Now from ts to 2ts, here the impulse is 0. Therefore anything is multiplied with 0. So in between ts to 2ts, let us consider this is 2ts for suppose. So even though there is a continuous time signal, but there is no the impulse train, so in between ts to 2ts, therefore I can get a 0 value between ts to 2ts. So I can get only the value at 2ts. So at 2ts the impulse is 1. So 1 is multiplied by this continuous time signal. So you should get the weight of the impulse. So you should get the weight of the impulse like this. So what is the value of the continuous time signal at 2ts? The same value will get here at t equal to 2ts. So after this, so from 2ts to 3ts, so your impulse is 0. So anything is multiplied from 2ts to 3ts, you should get 0 value. So you should get only value at 3ts. So because your impulse signal at 3ts is 1, weight is 1. Now if you multiply the impulse, periodic impulse, which is at t equal to 3ts, so you should get the weight of the impulse. So like this, you should get the weight of the impulse like this. So like this the pattern is going on. Here we will get the value of the impulse at 3ts, whose value is the value of your continuous time signal, which is defined at time equal to 3 ts. So after this, let us observe the signal on the left hand side. This is minus ts, so this is minus 2 ts, so this is minus 3 ts. So like that, we'll get this samples in the left hand side. So in the left hand side I can get the samples like this. So this is your minus ts, and this is your minus 2 ts. So like that I can get. So and this is your minus 3 ts. So like that the pattern is going on from minus infinity to plus infinity. If you join all the impulses, so you should get your continuous time signal pattern. So if you get the continuous time signal pattern like this. So I just consider a multiplier circuit. So for this multiplier circuit, I just feed two signals. One is your informational signal and another one is the periodic impulse train, so that I can get this sampled signal. So why it is called the sampled signal? Because it is only defined at the discrete instance of time. So on the x-axis we have the time axis. So this time is here equal to 0. So if I consider the sampling time is equal to 1 second. So if I consider the sampling time here is equal to 1 second, my x-axis becomes what? So here it becomes 1, here it becomes 2, so here it becomes 3. So like that I can get on the x-axis. So here I can get minus 1, here I can get minus 2, here I can get minus 3. So my x-axis becomes the integer values. So at the integer values only the signal is defined. So other than the integer values, its value is 0. So this is the sampled signal. This is the sampled signal which can be obtained after multiplying the information signal with the periodic impulse train. You can take the periodic impulse train also, but I considered the periodic impulse train. A periodic impulse train is one whose value repeats at regular intervals of the time. If it is a periodic impulse train, the value is not repeating at the regular intervals of time. You can take any signal, but you can take the impulse train. It is defined from minus infinity to plus infinity to get the discrete time signal. This is your sampled signal. So a sampled signal is one whose values are defined only at the integer values. So like this you will get the sampled signal. Here you just observe the sampled signal s of t, which is equal to I of t into p of t. Now this is the procedure how we are going to get the discrete time signal. This is the discrete time signal, because this signal is only defined at the discrete instance of the time. Now here there is one important point. I want to recover my continuous time signal, which is the CTS, from the sampled signal. So from this signal s of t, so I want to recover this I of t. So I want to recover this I of t. Now how can I recover this I of t, the continuous time signal, original continuous time signal, from the sampled signal? So which we are going to get as an output from the sampler circuit. So to get or to recover the continuous time signal from the sampled signal, so it must satisfy one condition. So I will explain the condition which is required to get back this continuous time signal from the sampled signal. So that condition is nothing but, I will explain this condition. That condition relates your sampling frequency with the maximum frequency component of the informational signal. So I want to derive one condition, very important condition. So that condition, depends on that condition, we will get back this continuous time signal from the sampled signal. So that condition depends on the sampling frequency with respect to the maximum frequency component of the informational signal. So I explained this condition now. So that is very important condition. To get that condition, so you just consider the spectrum of your sampled signal. So I can get the sampled signal like this, so which is your s of t. So here s of t is equal to what? So s of t is nothing but, so the multiplication of your informational signal with the periodic impulse train, which is your P of t. So to get back this the continuous time signal I of t from this sampled signal, I just want to derive one important condition. So that condition relates your sampled frequency with respect to the maximum frequency component of your message signal. So to derive that condition, you just consider the spectrum of your the sampled signal, the spectrum of your sampled signal. So for that, you just apply the Fourier transform on both sides of this equation. Now if you apply the Fourier transform on both sides of this equation, the Fourier transform of your the sampled signal, so which is S of t, is equal to the Fourier transform of the informational signal multiplied by the periodic impulse train. So I just apply the Fourier transform on both sides to get the spectrum of the periodic the sampled signal. Now what is the Fourier transform of S of t? The Fourier transform of S of t is nothing but the signal in the frequency domain, which is your capital S of omega, which is your capital S of omega. Now you recall one important the property of the Fourier transform. So when you multiply two signals, in the time domain, so I just recall one important property of the Fourier transform. So if I have the two signals, one is x1 of t and another one is the x2 of t. So for x1 of t, the Fourier transform is x1 of j omega. So for x2 of t, the Fourier transform is your x2 of j omega. Now if you multiply the two signals in the time domain, so what is the Fourier transform of the two signals which are multiplied in the time domain? The Fourier transform is nothing but the convolution of the two signals in the frequency domain. So this is your the convolution of the two signals in the frequency domain, that is divided by the factor of 2 pi. So this is the multiplication property of the Fourier transform. So using this multiplication property, I just write this relation as like this. So from this the Fourier transform of multiplication of the two signals in the time domain is what? In the time domain is equal to 1 by 2 pi times the convolution of the two signals in the frequency domains, that is x1 of j omega convolution x2 of j omega, that is multiplied by the factor of 2 pi. So using this the multiplication property in the time domain, so I have written this the Fourier transform of I of t and P of t, so by this way. So 1 by 2 pi, so here the signal is I of j omega, the Fourier transform I of t is I of j omega, so that is convolution with the P of j omega. This is spectrum of P of t, so P of j omega. So this is the spectrum of your sampled signal. So you just simplify this spectrum of the sampled signal to get the relation. So that relation is very helpful to get back the continuous time signal, that is your original signal, from the sampled signal. For that here, so you just find out the P of j omega. Here I of j omega you just keep as it is, and you just take this P of j omega. As it is. So as it is, you just take this I of j omega as it is and find out the P of j omega. So after finding the P of j omega, you just perform the convolution operation here in the frequency domain. So in the next step, I just find out this P of j omega. So what is your P of j omega? Your P of j omega is nothing but the Fourier transform of the periodic impulse train. Now how can we express any periodic signal? So that is if I take x of t is the periodic signal, how can you express this periodic signal in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion, So this is equal to n equal to minus infinity plus infinity Cn e power jn omega naught t. So this is the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. So any periodic signal, so x of t is a periodic signal, you can express any periodic signal in this form using the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. Here Cn is what? Here Cn is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your signal x of t, So you just find out this Cn and substitute this Cn in this expression, so that we will get the x of t. So in the similar way, how can we express your p of t? Your p of t is also a periodic impulse train. So with the period ts, now how can we express this periodic impulse train? So in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion, so with the help of this the periodic impulse train p of t, so E is expressed in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. So by this way, Cn into e power jn omega naught into t. So that is your p of t in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. Here Cn is what? Cn is nothing but the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of the impulse train of your p of t. So after finding this Cn, you just substitute Cn in this expression, so that we will get what? So that we will get the expression of the pt. So after finding Ct, here omega naught is nothing but omega s, because your impulse train frequency is omega s. Therefore I just so write this formula in this fashion: n equal to minus infinity plus infinity Cn e power jn omega s into t. So like that I can express my p of t using the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. Now I just substitute this p of t, so in this expression, to get your p of j omega, which is the spectrum of your the periodic impulse train. So if you substitute here, so you already know how to express any periodic signal in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. So e power so jn omega s into t. So that is your the representation of p of t in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. Now what is your p of j omega? So what is your p of j omega? So my aim is I want to find out the spectrum of s of omega. For that we need to find out the spectrum of your the periodic impulse train. So to find out the spectrum of your periodic impulse train, so you just apply the Fourier transform of the periodic impulse train. So to apply the Fourier transform of the periodic impulse train, you just express your p of t in terms of the complex exponential Fourier series expansion. So after that only we are going to find out the Fourier transform. It's Fourier transform. Now what is the Fourier transform of this expression? So the Fourier transform of this expression is nothing but sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. Here Cn, how can you get this Cn? Cn is nothing but the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your impulse train, which is p of t. How can you evaluate this Cn? So to evaluate this Cn, so we are going to use this formula. So the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of any signal can be obtained so using the formula like this. So 1 by ts, because your periodic impulse train the time period is ts, therefore 1 by ts. So you just perform the integral operation from over the range of the time period. So here your signal is p of t. So p of t is your signal e power minus jn so omega s into t into tt. So with the help of this so we are going to find out this Cn. Cn is nothing but the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your the periodic impulse train function, which is p of t. So using this expression we are going to find out this Cn and substitute this Cn in this formula. So here this Fourier transform of e power so jn omega s into t. Here Cn is constant, therefore no need to apply the Fourier transform for this. So finally I can get the spectrum of your periodic impulse train is like this: sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity Cn into, so what is the Fourier transform of e power jn omega s? So the Fourier transform of e power jn omega s is nothing but 2 pi times delta of omega minus n omega s. So this is the you already know the Fourier transform of the exponential function. The Fourier transform of the exponential function is nothing but 2 pi times delta of the, we will get the shifted function of the delta here, omega minus the coefficient of t is n omega s, therefore omega minus n omega s. So this is your the spectrum of your periodic impulse train. So in this we are going to find out this Cn. Which is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your periodic impulse train P of t. So using this expression, we are going to calculate the Cn and substitute the Cn value in this expression to get the P of j omega. So that is the procedure how we are going to get the P of j omega. So because we need P of j omega to perform this convolution operation. So you keep as it is the I of j omega factor. So I of j omega is as it is, and we are going to replace this P of j omega so by this expression. So after finding the Cn value, now my aim is I want to find out the Cn value. For Cn value, to find out the Cn value, you just consider the periodic rectangular function like this. My aim is finding the Cn. So after finding the Cn, so what is your P of j omega? So your P of j omega is equal to what? Is equal to sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So it is nothing but Cn into 2 pi into, so your delta of omega minus n omega s. So that is your spectrum of the periodic impulse train. So in this I am going to find out this Cn, the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your P of t. So for that you just consider the signal like this. You just consider the periodic rectangular function like this. So I just consider the signal like this, which is your periodic rectangular function. So like this it is defined from minus infinity to plus infinity. So let us consider the signal here is x of t, the periodic rectangular function. So like this I can get the periodic rectangular function. So width of your rectangular function is so minus tau by 2 to tau by 2, and the height is a. So a is the height. So it is defined like this. This is your periodic rectangular function. My aim is I want to find out this Cn. To find out this Cn, I just consider the periodic rectangular function. So this is my periodic rectangular function. So like that the signal is going on, and it is defined from minus infinity to plus infinity. Here the width of your rectangular function is tau is the width, and height is a, so that the area of your rectangular function is a into tau. Width into height gives the area of your rectangular function. Now so you just observe here the time period. I will mark the time period of the rectangular function. So like this is my t by 2 minus t by 2 to t by 2, so that this is my time period of the signal. So after the t, same waveform is going to repeat from minus infinity to plus infinity. So that is my t, time period of your signal. Now for this signal I consider you just find out the Cn. My aim is I want to find out this Cn for your P of t, for your periodic rectangular function. For that I just take this signal, a periodic rectangular function. So for this periodic rectangular function I just find out this Cn. So here Cn is what? Cn is nothing but 1 by time period. So integral, you are going to integrate. So over the range of the time period always your signal x of t into e power so minus j n omega naught t dt. So this is the expression used to calculate the Cn, which is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your rectangular function, periodic rectangular function. So this rectangular function is having width tau and the height is a, so that the area of the rectangular function is a into tau. Now how can you find out this expression? What is the time period? Time period is t. Now over the range of the time period we are going to integrate. So when we are going to integrate, so you just perform this integral operation from minus t by 2 to t by 2, because your signal time period is minus t by 2 to t by 2, which is your t, capital T. So we are going to integrate so over the range of the time period. Therefore you can take the limits of your integration from minus t by 2 to t by 2, and your signal x of t here, so that is multiplied by e power minus jn omega naught t dt. Now you just observe here, so while performing this integral operation, so you just observe here, so 1 by t of, so from minus t by 2 to g tau minus tau by 2. So is there any signal? There is no signal, therefore your x of t is 0. So I just reduce these limits from minus t by 2 to t by 2 to like this. So from minus tau by 2 to tau by 2. So like that I can reduce, because from tau by 2 to t by 2 also will get the function value 0. So no need to take the limits of integration from tau by 2 to t by 2. Therefore only consider the limits wherever the function is defined. In between minus t by 2 to t by 2, the function is only defined from minus tau by 2 to tau by 2. Therefore you just consider the limits minus tau by 2 to tau by 2. So in this range, what is your signal value? So what is your signal value? So your signal value is only a. So that is your constant a, because the signal is defined from minus tau by 2 to tau by 2 of height is a. Therefore your signal is x of t is replaced by capital A from minus tau by 2 to tau by 2. So it is multiplied by e power minus jn omega naught t into dt. Now so you just perform this integral operation. So for this so this is your complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of the rectangular periodic rectangular function. So that is equal to 1 by t. So here a by t, or you can consider this as a naught or a naught by t. So you just consider this constant as a naught. A naught is the height of your rectangular function, which is a naught. So a naught by t is getting outside. So integral minus tau by 2 to tau by 2. So e power minus jn omega naught t dt. So like that I can get, Now in this equation, so you just consider, so let it be minus jn omega naught t is replaced by theta. So let us consider the entire exponential e minus jn omega naught t is theta. Therefore so a small change in t will result a small change in the theta value, minus jn omega naught into d theta, and our limits of integration is also going to be changed. The entire expression I am going to convert into the theta domain. Therefore your cn becomes what? The cn is equal to a naught by t. So a naught by t. So integral. So what is the lower limit? Here the lower limit is minus tau by 2 to. Now what is the limit for theta? The limit for theta becomes minus jn omega naught. So this is tau by 2. Here the lower limit is minus tau by 2 to. Therefore lower limit for theta is plus jn omega naught tau by 2, and the upper limit for theta is what? So minus jn omega naught into tau by 2. So that is the upper limit for theta. I just convert this entire expression from t domain to theta domain. Therefore it becomes e power theta into, so what is dt? So dt is nothing but what? So minus 1 by jn omega naught into d theta. Now if you simplify this expression, so getting outside this factor, therefore I can get minus a naught by so jn omega naught into t. I just bring this minus 1 by jn omega naught outside. Therefore I can get this expression. Now we just perform this integral operation. So which is jn omega naught tau by 2 to minus jn omega naught tau by 2. So e power theta. So with respect to d theta we are going to integrate. Now integral e power theta d theta is what? So e power theta. So finally I can get like this. So minus a naught divided by, so jn omega naught t times, so e power theta we have, so e power theta, because integral e power theta d theta is e power theta, and you just substitute the limits upper limit and lower limit. So like this, e power jn, so omega naught tau by 2, upper limit is minus jn omega naught tau by 2. Now if you substitute the limits, so you just clearly observe here. So if you substitute the limits, so in the next slide I am going to write, so you just observe the limits. So if you substitute the limits, so you will get Cn is what? You will get Cn is like this. So now my Cn becomes like this. So your Cn, which is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient for the periodic rectangular function I considered. So in the process of deriving the Cn for the periodic impulse train, I just consider the periodic the rectangular function. For that I just find out its coefficient, the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient. Now if you substitute the limits, so I can get this minus a naught, there is a factor here, so jn omega naught t is the factor outside. Now you just substitute the limits, so the upper limit is we have minus jn omega naught tau by 2, that is your upper limit. So minus, substitute the lower limit. So if you substitute the lower limit, we will get what? So e power jn omega naught, so tau by 2. Like that I can get after substituting the limits. Now if you observe here, so e power minus jx is what? So e power minus jx is cos x minus j sin x. Now e power jx is what? So this is of the form e power minus jx. So this is of the form e power jx. E power jx is what? So e power jx is cos x plus j into sin x. So from this, if you subtract e power minus jx and e power jx, if you subtract the e power jx from the e power minus jx, so we will get what? Cos x gets cancelled. We will get so remaining is minus 2j sin x. That is the remaining thing we have. So after substituting e power subtracting e power jx from this e power minus jx, therefore I can get the simplified expression like this. So minus a naught divided by, so jn omega naught t, so we'll get here minus 2j. So minus 2j, we have the sin x. So what is sin x here? Sin n omega naught tau by 2. So that is the remaining thing we have. Sin x is remaining. X is here n omega naught tau by 2. So x is here is n omega naught tau by 2. Now, so minus minus becomes plus. Therefore, Cn becomes what? Cn is equal to, clearly observe here, j gets cancelled here. So we'll cancel j and minus minus becomes plus. So we have the 2a naught divided by j is removed. You just remove the j factor here because j is going to cancel from the numerator and the denominator. So the remaining is 2a naught divided by, so n omega naught tau, so into sin n omega naught tau by 2. So that is the remaining thing we have. Now if you rearranging this expression, so I just rearrange this expression so that I can get to a naught. So a naught I can get, so into sin n omega naught tau by 2 divided by n omega naught tau by 2. So I just bring out this 2 like this. So like that I can get, rewrite the entire expression. Now you just observe here. So for rewriting the above expression, you just observe here. Here we have done one mistake. You just observe here. So instead of t, I just consider tau. That is the mistake I can do here. So this is your t, not tau. So this is your t, not tau. So to bring this in terms of sin theta by theta, so you just multiply. Here we have n omega naught t is remaining here. So I just multiply and divide by this factor. So n omega naught tau by 2. So you just perform the simplification operation here. I just bring out this 2 like this, but here 2 is there. You can put 2 as it is, and you just multiply n omega naught tau by 2 by the same factor, so that I can get here 2 gets cancelled here. 2 gets cancelled here. N omega naught and n omega naught cancelled here. Now what is your simplified expression for C naught? So C naught is A naught tau. Here tau is remaining, so A naught tau, so divided by what? So A naught tau divided by t, time period of your signal. So this is sine n omega naught tau by 2 divided by what? N omega naught tau by 2. So this is the final expression I can get. So the Cn, which is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your the rectangular function. Now if you clearly observe the rectangular function, here I can consider. So if you clearly observe the rectangular function, I can consider here. You just observe the rectangular function, I can consider here. So when your A tau, so your A naught tau, the area under the rectangular function is equal to 1. That means unity area. And when t is tending to 0, so if I take these two limitations on this rectangular function, so when A naught tau is going to 1, that means the area under this rectangular function is going to 1, and this t is approaching to 0, so this entire rectangular function becomes what? So this entire rectangular function is becomes the impulse signal. So if I take these two limits on this the entire expression, the rectangular function I considered becomes the impulse train. It becomes the impulse train. So I can take those limitations on this function. So that I can get the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient for my impulse train. So when I take the limitations like this, so if limit, so A naught tau is tending to 1 and your t is going to approach to 0, so your Cn becomes what? Here Cn is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of your rectangular function we considered. So when I take these two limitations on your rectangular function, so your rectangular function becomes the impulse train. Therefore, so if I take these limits, I can calculate the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient of my the impulse train. So when I take these two limitations, so limit, so A naught tau is tending to 1 unit area and t is going to 0, so this A naught tau becomes 1 and this is t is remaining here. So this is of the form sine theta by theta. So when t is tending to 0, sine theta by theta becomes what? So becomes unity, and A naught tau becomes 1. When A naught tau is tending to 1, A naught tau becomes 1. Therefore, the remaining factor left out is 1 by ts. Here I can consider instead of ts, because so whenever I consider the limitations on this Cn, I can get the Cn for my impulse train. So my impulse train is having the time period of ts. Therefore, I can consider ts. In this expression, if I consider these limitations, I can get only 1 by t. So 1 by t is the remaining factor from this entire expression after considering these limits. Therefore, my the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient for my rectangular pulse becomes what? So 1 by ts. 1 by ts is the complex exponential Fourier series coefficient for my rectangular function, for the impulse train. Therefore, finally I can get the spectrum of my the impulse train becomes what? P of j omega becomes what? So P of j omega becomes sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity, sigma minus n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. Here we have in the formula Cn is there, so 2 pi is there into, so delta of omega minus n omega s. This is my spectrum of the periodic impulse function. Here Cn is what? So Cn I can calculate is nothing but 1 by ts. So you just substitute in the place of Cn by this 1 by ts, so that I can get the spectrum of my impulse train, which is P of j omega. So that is equal to sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So 1 by ts, so that is multiplied by 2 pi, so into delta of omega minus n omega s. Now 2 pi by ts is what? 2 pi by ts is nothing but your angular frequency. So your omega s multiplied by delta of omega minus n omega s. So this is the final equation I can get, P of j omega. So this is my P of j omega. So this is my P of j omega. Now substitute this P of j omega in the formula. So what is my spectrum of the sample signal? So what is my spectrum of the sample signal? So my spectrum of the sample signal is nothing but, so the spectrum of my sample signal is nothing but, so what is my sample signal? So my sample signal is S of t. So what is my sample signal? It is I of t multiplied by the impulse, periodic impulse train, that is your P of t. For this I just apply the Fourier transform on both sides so that I can get the spectrum of the sample signal S of omega. So S of omega is nothing but what? So S of omega is nothing but, so 1 by 2 pi times, so 1 by 2 pi times here I of omega, so convolution P of omega, P of omega, P of j omega. So P of omega. Now you keep as it is I of omega and replace your P of omega by the expression I can get. So I of omega, so this is convolution with, so P of omega is what? So P of omega is nothing but omega s, so omega s into sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So it is delta of omega minus n omega s. So that is the expression I can get, P of omega. So you keep as it is I of omega. I of omega is the spectrum of the information signal I of t. So you just keep I of t, I of omega as it is, and you rearranging this entire expression so that I can get to this omega s, you can getting outside. So omega s by 2 pi I have, so omega s by 2 pi of, so sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. Here I of omega convolution delta of omega minus n omega s. So that is the expression I can get after rearranging the terms. Now how can you perform this convolution operation? How can you perform this convolution operation? So let us consider, let us here clearly observe here. So you are going to convolute your I of omega by the shifted version of the impulse function in the frequency domain. Now you recall one property. So if I convolute x of t with the shifted version of the impulse delta of t minus t1, so what is the result I can get? So the result I can get, I can evaluate my function at the t minus t1. So this is the property of the impulse function, when you convolute any signal with the shifted version of the impulse signal, you can get the value of the signal at the instant of the impulse defined, the impulse is defined at t equal to t minus t1. Therefore you can evaluate this function at t equal to t minus t1. Therefore I can get this result, so using this result, now I can evaluate this convolution operation like this. So your S of omega becomes what? So S of omega becomes, so this is omega s by 2 pi of sigma, so n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So you are convoluting a signal in the frequency domain with the shifted version of the impulse in the frequency domain. Therefore I can get I can get the signal like this. Now my signal is what? So I can get this signal in the frequency domain which is at omega minus n omega s. So that is the signal I can get. So using this expression I can write the convolution of I of omega with the shifted version of the impulse signal. Based on this expression I can rewrite this entire convolution. So by I of omega minus n omega s. Now what is omega s by 2 pi? Omega s is what? 2 pi by ts. So your s of omega, which is the spectrum of the sample signal, becomes what? So 1 by ts, because omega s is 2 pi by ts. So 2 pi gets cancelled. So anything remaining is, we have 1 by ts. So 1 by ts of sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So I of omega minus n omega s. So this is the spectrum of the sampled signal. Now I derive this spectrum of the sample signal for getting one important condition. So that condition will be helpful to recover the original signal which is I of t from the sampled signal, which is your S of t, I can get back this I of t from the sampled signal. So how can I get back this original signal from the sampled signal? There is one important condition is required. So to derive that condition, I am going to find out this spectrum of the sampled signal. I am going to find out the spectrum of this sampled signal. When you analyze this spectrum of the sampled signal, so you can realize that condition. You can realize that condition. Now I rewrite this S of omega like this. So I just write the S of omega, which is the spectrum of your sampled signal, like this, 1 by Ts. So it is nothing but sigma n equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So it is I of omega minus n omega s. So you just expand this so that I can get the spectrum like this. So this is 1 by Ts. So from minus infinity to, the signal is defined from like this. So you just consider n equal to minus 3. So if I consider n equal to minus 3, I can get what? So omega plus 3 omega s. So if I consider n equal to minus 2, so I can get omega plus 2 omega s. So if n equal to minus 1, so I can get the signal like this, omega plus omega s. So this is corresponding to n equal to minus 3. So this is corresponding to n equal to minus 2. So this is corresponding to n equal to minus 1. So I just substitute, I just expand this summation from minus infinity to plus infinity. So I just write n equal to minus 3, n equal to minus 2, n equal to minus 1 plus. So what is n equal to 0? So I can get I of omega. So this is corresponding to n equal to 0. So after that n equal to 1, if you substitute n equal to 1, I can get I of omega minus, so omega s. So this is the term corresponding to n equal to 1. So after this I can get I of, so omega minus 2 omega s. So this is the corresponding term for n equal to 2. So after this, so I can get like this, so I of omega minus 3 omega s. So this is the corresponding term for n equal to 3. So like that the expression is going on. So plus and so on and so on and so on. So it is going on up to the infinity, Now, so if you clearly observe this expanded expression for S of omega, so I can rewrite this expression in this form. So in this graphical notation, I just rewrite this entire S of omega in terms of the graphical form, so that you can easily realize the condition required to get back the continuous time signal, original continuous time signal from the sampled signal. Now if you observe here, so what is I of omega? So I of omega is nothing but the spectrum of the information signal we considered. Now what is I of omega minus omega s? So your spectrum is shifted towards the right hand side by omega s units, So what is I of omega minus 2 omega s? The spectrum of I of omega is shifted right hand side by 2 omega s units, So like that we can take the spectrums. So we can take the spectrums with respect to the original spectrum. We can take the spectrum. I just write the entire expanded form in terms of the graphical notation, so that you can easily realize the concept. So this is my graphical representation of S of omega. So this is your S of omega. So first I will write I of omega. So what is your I of omega? So your I of omega is like this. So this is your I of omega. So I of omega is defined from minus omega m to omega m. So that is your I of omega. So it is defined from minus omega m to plus omega m. Now how can you define I of omega minus omega s? So you just shift this I of omega right hand side by omega s units, so that I can get the I of omega minus omega s. So you just perform the shifting operation of this I of omega to the right hand side, because it is minus omega s. So when you shift to the right hand side, so what are the positions of your I of omega minus omega s? So you just add omega s to this omega minus omega m, so that I can get here. So what is my value? Here omega s minus omega m. Here I can get omega s plus omega m. So this is my spectrum corresponding to I of omega minus omega s. Like that I can get the spectrum of I of omega minus 2 omega s. The same spectrum is, I can redraw the same spectrum, the shifted version of this I of omega to the right hand side by 2 omega s units. You just add 2 omega s to this minus omega m, and you just add 2 omega s to this omega m. Now when it comes to the I of omega plus omega s, so how can you draw this? You just shift your, so you just shift your I of omega. So you just shift your I of omega to the left hand side, by omega s units. So you just perform the shifting operation. You just perform this shift omega s units. So how can we get this omega minus omega s? I can get this limit. Now what is this limit? This limit is nothing but minus omega s minus omega m. So that is the limit we'll get here. I just shift this IA of omega to the left hand side, by omega s units, so that I can get I of omega plus omega s, So like that I can get the spectrum from minus infinity to plus infinity range, Now if we observe here, so if omega m is greater than, or omega m is greater than omega s minus omega m, you will just observe. So omega s, or you can take the relation like this. So if omega s minus omega m, so this limit is greater than, this omega m. So this omega m implies there is no interaction of these spectrums. There is no interconnection of these spectrums. Now if you clearly observe, I just draw the s of omega in the graphical presentation. So I just represent this s of omega using the graphical representation. You know already I of omega. Is the spectrum of your information signal. So I just consider this I of omega, and these are nothing but your shifted versions of your I of omega. So right hand side shifting operation or left hand side shifting operation. So over the range minus infinity to plus infinity. And if you observe here, one important thing is omega s minus omega m is greater than the omega m. So meaning is omega s is greater than 2 times omega m, are greater than or equal to omega m. That is omega s is the sampling frequency. So whatever the signal we consider the impulse train, periodic impulse train, that is your sampling frequency. Whenever the sampling frequency that is greater than or equal to 2 times the maximum frequency component of your message signal, that means there is no overlap. So there is no overlap of the spectrums. Clearly observe here. So omega s minus omega m is greater than or equal to, when omega s minus omega m is equal to 0, so this point is touching this point, and there is no overlap, and there is no overlapping happen. So when this condition satisfies, there is no overlap of the spectrums. So whatever the different spectrums we considered here, there is no overlap of the different spectrums we considered. So when there is no overlap of the spectrums we considered, so we can easily get back, your information signal, so which is your original signal from the sampled signal, So whenever this condition fails, we won't get back this the information signal. That means so whenever omega s minus omega m is less than, so this point is less than the omega m, implies, so omega s is less than 2 times omega m. So whenever this happens, your spectrums are going to overlap with each other, So that means you can get the pattern like this. So whenever this condition happens, so this is the condition happens, that means omega s minus omega m is appearing before omega m, So you should get the overlap of the spectrums. Like this. So whenever this happens, the overlapping of the spectrums will happen in the s of omega. So we cannot get back this original signal I of t from the sampled signal, So that is the meaning. If there is overlap of the spectrums happen, we won't get back this the original signal from the sampled signal. I already told you at the beginning. So we are going to develop this S of omega to derive one important condition. So using that condition, we are going to get back the information signal from the sampled signal. We are getting the sampled signal with the help of the multiplier sampler circuit. We are going to multiply the message signal or the information signal with the periodic impulse train so that I can get the sampled signal. So I can get back this information signal from the sample signal again. For that, I just need one condition. That condition, what we call as the omega s is greater than or equal to 2 times omega m. So whenever the omega s, your sampling frequency, is greater than the 2 times of the frequency, the maximum frequency component of the information signal, there is no overlap happens with the spectrums of the S of omega. So when there is no overlapping, so we can easily get back the I of t. From the sampled signal. So if this condition fails, means omega s minus omega m appears before omega m. So whenever this condition fails, that means omega s is less than 2 times omega m. So there is a overlap of the spectrums in the S of omega. So when there is overlap of the spectrums happen, we don't get we do not get the recovery of the information signal, original signal from the sampled signal. So on the basis of this I am going to define the sampling theorem. The definition for the sampling theorem states that, so a signal, so this is the definition for the sampling theorem. So sampling theorem can be defined based on the above. So the sampling theorem can be defined like this. Sampling theorem states that, so a signal here, so what is the signal we consider here? A signal here we consider is I of t. This is the signal we considered. So we can represent this signal. So it can be represented. Any signal can be represented in terms of samples. So in terms of the samples, so which is your S of t. So in terms of these samples, so and can be recovered back. So when it happens, when the sampling frequency and the same signal can be recovered back, whenever the sampling frequency, so which is your omega s is greater than or equal to twice of the maximum frequency component of the information signal. So which is your I of t. So this is your sampling theorem. So the sampling theorem states that, so we can get the sampled signal from the informational signal by the help of the sampling process, and we want to get back this informational signal. So to get back this informational signal, so there is a condition required. So that condition is the sampled frequency is always greater than or is equal to 2 times the maximum frequency component of the informational signal. So this is your sampling theorem. This condition is very, very important condition. So this condition is required, so to get back the informational signal, the original signal from the sampled signal. This is nothing but the sampling theorem. So this is all for this class.